Yes, thầy. Namo Sakyamuni Buddha, Namo Sakyamuni Buddha, Namo Sakyamuni Buddha.
Thank you. Okay, let me share the screen here. Yeah, continue, please.
Yes, thầy. Immediately he entered the samadhi, and in the midst of the sky rained down mandara flowers, great mandara flowers, and finely ground, hard black particles of sandalwood. They filled the whole sky like clouds as they came raining down. He also rained down the incense of the sandalwood wood that grows by the southern seashore. 6 taels of this incense is worth as much as the Saha worth. All this he used as an offering to the Buddha. When he had finished making this offering, he rose from his samadhi and thought to himself, though I have employed my supernatural power to make this offering to the Buddha, it is not as good as making an offering of my own body.
Yeah,
Yes, thầy. I understand that in here, the Buddha's sun, moon, pure, bright feature, he used the mean to offer um, to the Buddhas from his samadhi. Uh, there are mandala flowers and great mandala flowers that he want to offer to the Buddha. However, he thought that it might not enough, so he thought of offering his own body.
Yeah, actually, the Bodhisattva names clearly seen by all living beings. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that Bodhisattva, he made offerings to this Buddha already. Yes. After that, he ended samadhi and make more offerings.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Miss Tengyu, would you mind to read next, please?
Yes, Thay. Thereupon he swallowed various perfumes, sandalwood, kunduruka, turushka, prika, aloes, and likodambar gum. And he also drank the fragrant oil of champaka and other kinds of flowers, doing this for a period of fully 1200 years. Anointing his body with the fragrant oil, he appeared before the Buddha, sun, moon, pure, bright virtue, wrapped his body in heavenly jeweled robes, poured fragrant oil over his head, and calling on his transcendental powers, set fire to his body. The glow shone forth, illuminating worlds equal in number to the sands of 80 million Ganges. The Buddhas in these worlds simultaneously spoke out in praise, saying, "Excellent, excellent, good man. This is true diligence. This is what is called a true Dharma offering to the thus come one. The one may use flowers, incense, necklaces, incense for burning, powdered incense, paste incense, heavenly silken banners and canopies, along with the incense of the sandalwood that grows by the southern seashore, presenting offerings of all such things as these. He can never match this. The one may make donations of his realm and cities, his wife and children. He is no match for this. Good men, this is called the foremost donation of all. Among all donations, this is most highly prized, for one is offering the Dharma to the thus come one." So in deciding that he is going to offer his body, he prepared it by drinking liquids and oils, and he prepared his bodies by eating other kinds of flowers. And in prepping it, before he set his body on fire, and with the body in being as lit as it is, it illuminated, and the Buddhas in other worlds recognized this and praised him, saying that though you can make donations of your realm, your cities, your children, your wives, but the most foremost donation, the most recognized donation of all is the donation of your body. And this is considered as if it's the offering of the Dharma to the Buddha.
What do you think? It's so extreme.
I think for me, in this stage in my life, yes, it is extreme, but for someone who has already gone down the enlightened path and feels that he is dedicated to the path, that the Dharma path that he is going on, in his studies, in his dedication, I think there are people who feel this is appropriate for them. And so I can't question that, just as I'm sure they don't question why I don't do what I don't do.
Yeah. So how about you, Tammy? It's too extreme for you, Tammy?
Yes, it's very extreme.
Why? What do you think?
Well, just the quantity of time. I mean, the quantity of time, 1,200 years that he prepared. I mean, just to even make the offering is extreme enough, just to try and even comprehend somebody spend that much time preparing his body, then to just set fire of it. So yeah, all of it's a lot to kind of wrap your mind around.
So probably you could not understand why, right? Why they make that type of offerings, right? And even the Buddha prays for that. Is that the Buddha encourage people to do that? What do you think?
I don't think he is encouraging people to do that without proper enlightenment. Like she said, you know, you'd have to be an enlightened being to even to do something like that. But the glow shining amongst so many worlds, I would say, is very significant, and it probably helped save beings, is what I'm assuming. So in that sense, of course, it would be meaningful. It's not like he just burned his body for no reason. He made it as an offering, and I'm sure that offering helped save others.
Well, you, William, so when you first read this, you probably you think this is too extreme, right? You get used of this type of message before, right?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, it from where I sit, yeah, definitely seems extreme. If I was to think of myself doing this, well, I'm not going to live for 1,200 years, for one thing. But also it kind of points to the blessings that this bodhisattva has as well, that he's able to do all of those things, to take the time to do that and to have access to all of that. And I mean, definitely the like letting go of all attachments, I think is one big theme there, but then also the demonstration of like the source of true blessings. So letting go of all attachments for the sake of Buddhahood, for the sake of, for all, which, you know, is basically the benefit of all living beings. That in that practice, nothing is lost, I think, is the idea that's being put across. Like, to me, if I were to set myself on fire, what would be in the way of that was, I feel like a lot would be lost. But in you know, for someone at that level who sees things clearly, it's, you know, it's like, you know, maybe it's like me spending like a week in meditation or something. It's like for him, it's not as big of a deal, because he so clearly sees the nature of reality that, you know, in offering this body, nothing's truly lost, and it's just in alignment with the Buddha way.
And I think you have heard the story of a Vietnamese monk who burned himself in the mist in 1963, right? And lately, more than 150 Buddhist Tibetan Buddhist monks now, and like people burn themselves at the protest to the Chinese government. You heard about that, right, William?
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, you showed us the video of an article about the Tibetan ones. And
So what do you think? Yeah.
I mean, it clearly got a lot of attention to the issue. I mean, it's even on the cover of a really famous alternative music album, Rage Against the Machine, used an image of that monk as the cover art for an album back when I was in middle school. And I think, I mean, it was such a way to call attention to what was happening. So from, just normal people around the world, it had a kind of mundane effect in the sense of calling attention to the issue and the severity of it, that someone would do this and make people kind of turn and look and investigate. But then on a spiritual level, from what our conversations and from, you I think understand the situation deeper than I do, but that it seemed like after that, there was a big shift in the conflict and what happened. It seemed like it was a turning point. So the suggestion being that it had some, spiritual purifying effect on that conflict. But that he just sat there, that he didn't get up and like run and scream. I mean, that was a big testimony to his discipline.
Yeah, only one who has that much of samadhi could do that. For the common people, right? When we touch our finger to the fireplace, it's burned. There's no way for us to keep that on, right? Not talking about the whole body. Yeah.
I've wondered about one of the offerings you made. And I don't know if it's appropriate to ask or not, but I've been curious about it, like, related to this subject. Is it okay if I ask? Is that?
I prefer I wait for last. For the last. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I will discuss that, but not now. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, Miss Tang Yu, you want to say anything about that?
Yes, as you were saying, I was thinking, and just as what William was saying, that your question is, do I think that it's extreme? And to be able to get to a certain level where you can circumvent the basic pain receptors, and to be able to, knowingly you're preparing your body. These people, I do not believe are like you, or I don't know about you, but are not like who I am, because there's no way I could be able to circumvent, the basic response of pain. My central nervous system is going to be able to shut that down willingly. There are times when you can willingly say, oh, I want to do this, but the instincts or the reflexes, the pain reflexes, aren't going to be able to be shut down. So as you had mentioned, they must have been in such a high state of samadhi to be able to turn everything completely off, to be able to sit there and not have a response. Because we've talked about people who have passed and then requesting that their body does not be disturbed or touched for 8 hours so that it does not elicit any pain responses or any awakenings or any disturbance, so that way they can pass and they can proceed as peacefully as possible. And if you are not ready to be able to make such a dedication, such a donation in peace, then your mind will be disturbed, and then I suppose the act of it is destroyed, because you won't have that peace of mind to be able to fully complete that. It makes a whole different effect when, let's say, yes, if somebody does the self-immolation and as William had mentioned, they're screaming and they're running around, and they are as they are lit on fire. And I would hate that, you know, at that point their mind is thinking, what have I gotten myself into? And, you know, and I regret that. So to be able to reach that level, that is extremely significant in itself.
Yeah. Actually, thank you. Thanks for mentioning that about that. Actually, it happened. This happened to one man during those time. Right after Taekwondo, he burned himself, and there's some monks follow him. But this one, he was a young monk, and he wanted to be famous. He tried to burn himself, but he could. But later on, he converted to Christianity, and he came back to criticize Buddhism. Yeah, it's really funny. Yeah, if you read Vietnamese, you would know that. This thing, probably you may not aware of that, right?
No, I never heard of that story before.
It happened.
But it's interesting. But the self-reflection is important for that person, I would think. Thinking that his motivation is not quite there, or you have to recognize that you're not quite at the level where you want to be, and the motivation at which you are doing it is not proper. If you're a novice, you can't, you know, take major steps and be able to cut corners. So obviously the motivation is not what it should be for that person.
Yeah, that's why even he published a book to promote Christianity and criticize Buddhism. Yeah. Anyway, so it will be funny. Yeah. Cô Thông Nguyên, are you aware of that book in Vietnamese?
Thưa thầy, I'm not aware of that book. But about this story, every time I go to Vietnam, I went to a Thiên Mụ temple. So they still have the car and the car with Venerable Thích Quảng Đức used when he burned himself. But I also read that actually he was a monk when he was a child already, and he recites a lot of Lotus Sutra. And it was his act of bodhisattva at the time when there was conflicts between Buddhism and Christian in Vietnam. So I think his act is mainly to show that people should not fight because of religion, and there is non-attachment to the body. But not all people can do this, because I think he practiced a lot, several lives before, and also would use Diamond Sutra, something like that, because after that his heart remained, and they still keep his heart in the Vietnam secret place, so that everyone can remember him. So I think he was a bodhisattva who want to show to the rest of the world that we should not have too much attachment to the body. And actually, after that happened, the whole world watched and looked at the Vietnamese war in a different perspective, instead of thinking all the Vietnamese was too much crazy into religion. So that's what I understand today.
Yeah. Thầy Giáo Pháp, please.
I think the purpose of Venerable Thích Quảng Đức, he did it because he want to make the world to focus on the Vietnam War and relate to the politics that they use the religion, and they suppress all the religion That's the whole purpose. Just like in China, they suppress the Tibetan and the monk who sell immolation, right? They are the one who to raise their voice to the action of the self immolation. That's the whole purpose of doing this. So they do not have other other agenda. So the only purpose is to make sure that the whole world know about it, and then they hopefully they can intervene. So,
Yeah. I
Yes,
don't. Yeah, Miss Tang Yu, please.
yes, I have a question regarding this. And while the actions of the monks who self-immolated are very worthy and worthy of respect, in reading this passage, I wanted to ask you if the motivation, because I don't think I understand. I don't see a similarity unless I'm not deep enough to be able to recognize that in this passage you are donating your body to as part of the Dharma to the Buddha. And yes, while I recognize that it is an act of showing that there's no self-attachment to something that is impermanent, this is an act of dedication to the Buddha, whereas the monks who have self-immolated, it was in opposition or as a protest. So are these acts regarded as the same? Because one side is political or of a social protest, and one side is a dedication to the Buddha. So I do understand, I do see the gray zone, but if you can explain to me, is there a distinction?
I think in the case of Thích Quang Đức and most of Tibetan Buddhist monks and lay people, intention is religion. For the case of in the case of Thích Quang Đức, definitely this because the Catholic president, he ordered some unfair law that suppress the Buddhist people. That's why he want to protect Buddhism and put that kind of protest to sacrifice himself to make the voice so that the whole world would recognize the suffering that Vietnamese Buddhist people endure during those times. And in the case of Tibetan Buddhist monks and lay people, I think majority of them sacrifice their life for their own religion, of course, for their own country too. And you know, if you look at the situation in China, even not only in Tibet, but also the whole country of China, people would not have much freedom to say things that we want to say, even to practice their own religion. So it's very severe in China, and I've been in China several months before I knew that it's very severe. I went to visit several Buddhist holy places like the Putu Sang, Chiu Sang, and so forth. Most of the old Buddhist statues were demolished, and after the Cultural Revolution, they allowed the Buddhists to rebuild the temple and to rebuild the Buddha statue, but they keep the Buddha, the Buddhist centers as a tourist place, And of course, they still allow the monks and nuns to do the practice, but they would not allow them to go out to do the teaching much. They have to stay within their farm, their own temple to do the prayer. And it's during those years, I went there in 1992, 1993. Of course, things are changing more than 20 or 30 years already. I know what's changing, but according to my knowledge up to now, it's totally opposite with the way we practice religion here in this country. We're so blessed. But over there, if you want to do the practice of your own religion, yes, you can do, but you don't, or you cannot share with others. Basically, the Buddhist monks now they don't have the right to go out to do the teaching. So it's pretty severe up to now. So that's why I'm not talking about Tibetan people in their own country. They would, I mean, that the Chinese community kill more than 1 million of Tibetan people, and they destroy so many temples, and even whoever carry Dalai Lama image or picture will be put in jail. So it's very severe, and I feel sympathy from those Buddhist monks. I mean, the Tibetan Buddhist monks now, even lay people. Most of them are young people. They could not handle this kind of oppression. So that's why the only thing they do is to sacrifice their body to awaken or to let the world know what's going on there. That's too much suffering for them to handle. So for the outsider, they may think, oh, that's because of the political intention. But for me, mostly they sacrifice because of the spiritual religious causes. It makes sense, Ms. Thang Yu?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate your perspective from what you saw. It definitely wasn't something that I understood up to this point.
Yeah.
No problem. I think that I think your question is related to the what is the difference between the bodhisattva that who self-immolation inside the sutra, the Lotus Sutra, compared to the monk that like the Vietnamese monk or the Tibetan. What is the difference? Right? So basically, they similar in value, but different level. Different value, and that means similar. What does that mean? The bodhisattva in this sutra, the way he offered his body is because he attained the Dharma, and that's why he's grateful to he have a gratitude to the Dharma, and he wants to repay the Dharma in this way. So that means he honor the Dharma that he attend. That means nothing. That means the money cannot buy, right? Even whatever the material that he used to offer, it's not compared. So basically, he used his own body to sacrifice for it, and hopefully that is how he expressed his gratitude towards the Dharma. So the same way that the Buddhist monk that they do, they do it because they want to protect the value of the Buddhism. And this is so important. Otherwise, they will demolish the Buddhist center and here and there, and it will and that's why they want to bring the void to the whole world. So hopefully they can do something to stop that. So that is similar in that way, but on a different level. I hope
yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that that perspective.
Thank you.
So anyway, Thang Thiền, you follow our conversation about this passage?
Yeah, more Thai. Yes, a bit. Yes.
Yeah. So what do you think, William, if you live in that type of environment that the government does not allow you to practice your own religion and they oppress the people and so forth, how could you react? How could you handle? How could you deal with that kind of situation? What do you think?
Well, I don't know, you know, like until I was in that situation, I wouldn't know for sure how I would act. I don't think I would self-immolate. I may try to leave that country if possible, but I would probably still practice. I would still practice in private, and I think the teachings are so like they're so universal in the sense of their application that some of the like triggering issues that would be triggering for the government, I might just avoid those as a sort of expedient means, just like not preaching to someone who's not ready because it'll only cause them problems. I maybe would try to just conform to the environment and maintain the spirit of my practice internally as good as possible. And then if I, made close friends and people who I trusted, then I would gradually maybe share something with them. I definitely wouldn't go out and draw attention and try to be convincing strangers, because that would be a good way to get locked up, it sounds like. But yeah, I don't think I'd be as bold to trust that I would be able to successfully self-immolate.
Yeah. So how about you, Tammy? If you live in that type of environment, what do you think?
I'm not for sure. I'd say probably I would practice at home and just keep it to myself, but that would really be difficult because you wouldn't be able to learn as much as you can when you're doing it out in the open. So
Yeah.
that would definitely be a tough situation.
Yeah. Let me find some image that it depends. During those time, the time that when people they burn themselves, and sometimes the Chinese soldiers carry the fire extinguisher so that they could extinguish the fire. Oh, okay, right here. I think this one here. Okay, here. I will share with you here. Instead of carrying a run, you look at here, they carry the fire extinguisher. You see that? So that when you see someone burn themselves, they would use this fire extinguisher to extinguish the fire. Can you see that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really terrible, but that's why. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, let's go back. So again, the essential meaning of this message is that somehow it's not easy to give up everything. Of course, we know some story that in the past, Buddha even gave someone his head. That person came up and asked him the head. He would be happy to give the head to those that ask for. So the idea is that for a Bodhisattva, he could sacrifice anything that people ask for. Even at that time, he was in position as a king, right? So he run a country. He took care of so many people, but because of his vow, right? So he he was willing to give his own head to the one that asked for. Yeah. So that's the whole idea. Yeah. Of sacrifice without any kind of attachment. Of course, for us nowadays it's not easy, right? Sometimes if we encounter homeless or poor people, yes, we can give them, but give them something that we have extra, right? We could not give everything. That's what Buddhists have. They don't mind whichever people ask, whichever sentient being ask, they will sacrifice, they will give to them. So that's why they accumulate much blessing in the past way than us. So the more they give, the more blessing they have, and the quicker they attain enlightenment. Plus, when we give out, that means we reduce this attachment, whether it's material attachment or in this case, the bodily attachment. That's why it does mean that the Buddha encouraged us to burn ourselves as an offering, but in the meaning that we need to let go of everything in order to pursue the spiritual path. Yeah. Tammy, you follow, right? It's just understandable, right?
Yes.
But this somehow for common people it's still extreme, huh? Right?
Yes.
Okay. So William, let's say if you mention about this passage to some American, so they got shocked, and how could you explain to them in any way? Yeah.
I did before I forgot. I did want to mention there was a guy in New York, a professor who self-immolated to draw attention to global warming in Central Park at about he went out early in the morning, like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. And he left a little note, but he went out early so nobody would stop him. And in Central Park, there's no videos of it. I don't think. There was just his pile of ash and the note that was left.
When was that?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up. Man immolates himself in Central Park. It was 2018.
Wow. 25 years ago. Huh?
So it wasn't Central Park. It looks like it was Prospect Park. His name is David Buckle.
He's American?
Yeah, he was a lawyer, an environmental activist.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's
wow.
I think he was. Yeah, he's American. Yeah. So yeah, it said April 6th, around 6 a.m. on the 14th of April, 2018. He set himself on fire in Prospect Park. Yeah, he emailed a suicide note out. Most humans on the planet now breathe air made unhealthy by fossil fuels, and many die early deaths as a result. My early death by fossil fuel reflects what we are doing to ourselves.
So he claimed himself as Buddhist or any religion that he follow?
No. I mean, there's nothing mentioned in his Wikipedia article. He was a lawyer and he worked for the rights of like transgender, lesbian, gay, bisexual people. And I don't see anything about any religious beliefs.
Okay.
But so, I mean, if I were to come across someone like, they'd heard that passage I would talk about kind of relativity. If Arnold Schwarzenegger's in the gym when he was in his 20s, he might be benching over 300 pounds. But that doesn't mean that the way to get strong is to start benching over 300 pounds. Like you can't start there. So everyone's different. So in this story, it's talking about this bodhisattva who has achieved this like very high development of realization. He's not talking about, like you or me, but like this person who is, normal American person I'm talking to, I'm referring to, not like you or me. And more of what the story is pointing at is that this deeper law that is being described is that this sort of act is not bad. Like this sort of act is a positive thing in the right mind state. And so I think it's a story that's kind of describing this law. It's describing the source of benefit and true blessings and an expression of understanding where one is so unattached to these temporary physical appearances and sees the way so clearly that the way forward is this sort of amazing sacrifice or offering. It's kind of a demonstration of a realization. It doesn't say that in every life thereafter he kept doing it, because he probably has other things he has to do at some point. But that, I think, I have actually talked to a friend about this who's a psychiatrist, and he kind of got it when I explained it that way, but he's still, someone who wants to be skeptical. There's plenty of room to be skeptical on, because you could say, okay, well, why didn't he spend that time doing something else, like helping people, and so I think it's best viewed at as like a way to demonstrate, to explain a certain law through an example, through a story, where in this setting with that intention, that it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not that everyone has to do it. It's just that if one sees reality clearly, one could see how that is not a bad thing.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to ask. I have to add one more thing. That I was born during the Vietnam War. I didn't recognize much the problems that the Catholic president oppressed the Buddhist community in Vietnam. But when I went to India, 1998 and 1998, I could feel. I live amongst the Tibetan people, and I talk with them in the daily basis too. I could recognize their sufferings, and of course, on the news, you may have read, and in person, I listen to their story, and they say that they were forced to denounce Dalai Lama if they keep the Dalai Lama image in their room or in the temple and so forth. They may have to go to the jail, and they were brainwashed by the Chinese communists politically. So again, as a Buddhist, they're not supposed to raise arms, right? To carry arms to go against the Chinese communists, to protect their country and religion. And for me, again, I feel sympathy and understand why some of them they so frustrated that they could not do anything except to burn themselves as a kind of protest that they want to protect their own religion and their own country. It's pretty severe, yeah. Unless you live and witness those people who have endured those kind of sufferings. Okay, let's just move on then. Okay, yeah. Sorry, let me see. Yeah. Tammy, can you read, please?
After they had spoken these words, they each fell silent. The body of the Bodhisattva burned for 1200 years, and when that period of time had passed, it at last burned itself out. After the Bodhisattva, gladly seen by all living beings, had made this Dharma offering, and his life had come to an end, he was reborn in a land of the Buddha, sun, moon, pure, bright virtue, the household of the king, pure virtue. Sitting in cross-legged position, he was suddenly born by transformation, and at once, for the benefit of his father, he spoke in verse form, saying. So it said that his body burned for 1200 years, and then after that, he was reborn through transformation to King Pure Virtue in the land of Buddha, sun, moon, pure, bright virtue.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me tell you a story that relates to my grandmaster story. Sư Yun. So William, you know, right? Oh, Sư Yun, my grandmaster.
Yeah, empty cloud.
Yeah, empty cloud. Tammy, you know about him?
I know some stories.
Yeah.
One step, 3 step, one by one.
Yeah. Let me share with you here. Here, you see that our master here, remember Xinhua, right? This is our master here. Mr. Như, you know, right? You recognize our master, right?
Is this the Grand Master who also taught the Master Tây Tung Hua?
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
that's our grandmaster, Master Xu Yun. Yeah.
Yes.
Have you seen him before? Have you seen his image before?
Yes, I've seen it at the temple here. There's a Chinese temple here, and they do have his statue in the hall dedicated to the previous masters that have gone before.
Yeah. Anyway, so I like to mention about this. So in his biography, it mentioned that he has a disciple. That disciple, he discipled the names. He focused on the Pure Land practice, basically. So one day he went up to the Grandmaster, our Grandmaster, when the Su Yun say, tonight it's time for me to go. And at that time, yeah, our Grandmaster say, well, what happened? And he mentioned that at night he would go to the Pure Land. And what happened then? At night, he went to the back of his hut and burned himself. And when the Master knew, he let other monks to witness. And after everything's done, his whole body still remained. So yeah, they did some kind of funeral services for him. And the instant that our master touched the body of that student, right? So it become the ash. So again, of course, we can know that this is purely religious, a spiritual intention for him to burn himself because he want to go there, to go to the Pure Land of Amitabha Buddha. So this is many story in the past, not only happening now, but in the past too. Yeah. So basically, he split up the process of being born in the Western Pure Land, yeah, by burning himself. Yeah.
That, to me, that sort of, I mean, it begins to beg the question. So for that reason of, he wants to be reborn in the Pure Land. Because in general, like in Western societies, suicide is considered as a bad thing. Most people are doing it out of a very bad place, like they're hurting, they're suffering terribly. They just want it to end. And in a sense, the desire to go to the Pure Land is similar to that, but he has a better life, probably. He has a community, he has meaning, but he just, wants to be freed from a different type of suffering. But it would seem like, well, there's all sorts of ways to kill oneself. Burning seems to be like, wow, that's because it's painful, it's intense. It's like, okay, if you're doing that, it's not just about wanting to get out, like there's something else to it. But like, what if they used a different method? What if he wanted to go to the Pure Land, but he just like, used a gun or a knife, or ate some sort of poison? It seems like there's probably some boundaries there. There's probably some guidelines about when that becomes something that's not positive.
Actually, when we talk about that, Captain, this is probably that's close to commit suicide, but for burning himself, actually, this is more reasonable, because it's based upon this type of sutra that this Bodhisattva burned himself to make offerings to Buddha. So in the way that he wanted to speed up the process, and again, is like you say, is opposites to other people, not only the West but also the East. Whoever, if they kill themselves in the negative state of mind, it is not good for them. Like I mentioned that one gentleman who just passed away because he killed himself in Louisville. Yeah, it's a lot of problem for his own families nowadays. Yeah.
William, I think you bring up a very good point. I think do you remember that in California many years ago, there were about 30 young people. They commit suicide in one night, that they want to go to the other world, something like that.
2000, right?
Yes, I remember that. They draped themselves in black
Yeah.
and lay in their bed. And I don't know who went last, but it was quite a disturbing picture, actually, because it was really freaky. They were all draped in black cloth and decided to go. I want to say it was like a cult. And it happened a long time ago, many years ago, but I do remember that incident.
Yeah, this is they are illusionists. But the self-immolation in Buddhism, they do have a dharma. So because due to that, they have to samadhi, right? Otherwise, if we do not have samadhi, there are no way they can do it.
Yeah.
But the people who kill themselves, they are using other, maybe they use drugs or they use whatever, right? That is a different thing.
Anyway. All right. Okay. Thank you. Let's move on then. Yeah. Let's see here. Sorry. Let's see here. William, have you read this?
This part?
Yeah.
Oh, today have I read? Yeah, I've read once today already.
Thank you. Miss Thang Như, can you read this?
Yes, Thầy, great king, you should now understand this. Having walked about in a certain place, I immediately gained the samadhi that allows me to manifest all physical forms. I have carried out my endeavors with great diligence and cast aside the body that I loved. When he had recited this verse, he said to his father, the Buddha, sun, moon, pure, bright virtue is still present at this time. Previously, I made an offering to this Buddha and gained a dharani that allows me to understand the words of all living beings. Moreover, I have heard this Lotus Sutra with its 800,000, 10,000 millions of nayutas, kankaras, vivaras, akshobhyas of verses. Great king, I must now once more make an offering to this Buddha. So should I stop here or should I continue on?
Yeah, you can stop. Please. Yeah.
So the Bodhisattva said he had been reborn to a king, and then in his reincarnate form, he said to his father that basically informed him that he is reincarnate, and that over his previous births and previous lives, he at this point gained the samadhi, and then that allowed him to be able to be in any forms that in any physical forms that he want. And he said that he in his goals for to be diligent in his practice, in his dharma practice, he was able to cast aside the body that he loved, which to all human beings, that is the most precious thing that we attach to the most. And he said to his father that the Buddha, sun, moon, pure, bright virtue is still present. And he had said that he had made an offering of to this Buddha before, and he was able to gain a dharani that allowed him to understand all living beings. And after hearing this Lotus Sutra many times, he now wants to also make another offering to this Buddha as well, following what he has also done in the past offerings. So even in this physical form that he has reincarnated, to continue that, he also would like to continue to make an offering to this Buddha who is still present with them.
Yes. So what do you think about his awareness of the purest life that he recognized? He made that of offerings. Listening you, what do you think?
Well, I mean, you have to reach to a certain level to be able to recognize that you had been reincarnated, and to remember the details of your previous lives. That is amazing and spectacular. So to have that memory and to be able to learn and recognize and remember the things, the details, and to know what is the proper thing to do, and to want to do the proper thing in this lifetime, to continue on your Dharma path. I think that is a true indication of how much merits and how much blessing he has accumulated over the many lives that he has done, that has gone through.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Tammy, remember last night we studied about the discussion of the King Minanda and the Nagasena, right? So you say that in order to attain nirvana, they have to have confidence, mindfulness, faith, and concentration. He didn't mention much about the merit, right? Remember, Tammy, we talked about that part?
Yes.
But in Mahayana Sutra, it's mostly focused on mention about the practice of generosity, and even offer your own body too. Is it a bit different now, Tammy?
Yes, for sure.
Or was a bit different? What do you think? Why is that?
Well, because in the other tradition, you're just want to become an Earhart. So you're only trying to, you don't need the generosity and the blessings and the merits because you're not trying to really help anyone else. You're just trying to obtain nirvana for yourself.
Yeah. The cô Thân Nguyện, you recognize the difference, right?
Yes, I recognize the difference between two paths.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a question regarding that. So
Yes.
do you think the Theravada tradition is also a stopping point, just like in the Lotus Sutra there are stopping points in achieving nirvana, and then before you are able to reach the ultimate, which is the wisdom of the Buddhas?
Yes.
So
yes, that's the foundation. I encourage the beginners that we need to start with the Pali Canyons. As long as we have some basic understanding about the Buddha teaching, we can move on to the Mahayana teaching. Otherwise, we may get lost easily. Yeah.
I have some thing to share about this, because I remember I went first to India, and then I had experience in meditation, and then I went back. And when I was first time serving in the Vipassana meditation center, one of the Zen teacher, one time I asked some question, I don't remember, but maybe I asked something about Buddha villains or something like that, but he rejected, and he said, his answer like, no, you should only focus on your breath, and that's all we focus in here. And then after that, I know, okay, because they follow the Theravada tradition, so I don't ask this kind of questions, but I do recognize that to be able to transform from Theravada to Mahayana path, one should have a sacrifice and realizing of non-attachment to first material or friends or family, but the body and other mental attachments, and that is more difficult than sitting alone somewhere and keep the mind calm, because the rest, actually the world around us, many people have suffering. That's what I want to share.
Yeah, William, right? Last night we talked about that, right? That's a bit different, huh?
Yeah.
So, Thang Thing, you recognize, right? When we do the practice by ourselves, it's easy. But when we help others, we need to sacrifice. The more we sacrifice our times, energy, whichever, the more blessing we have. You recognize that, Thang Thing? Right?
Yeah, motherfucker. I think it's easy to practice on our own, but to help others, we have to find the time, the effort to help others. I think it's better that we have to help ourselves before we can help others. If we don't help ourselves, how can we help other people? Yeah,
that's right. But let's say in some cases, like yes, for example, in your case, right, because you love your mom, so you stay back. Otherwise, you would follow the spiritual path, right? That's just you sacrifice there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's part of sacrifice. That's one way you repay the kindness of your mom. But what happened if you just move on for yourself, without regarding about her needs, her wish? What do you think? If you just say I'm take care by myself, I don't need to care anyone else. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I need to be mindful of what's going on to look after my mom. Before we have to stick together. We can that's the way I can help her. I have to remind my brother and my sister to look after her too. Yeah.
Yeah. Even our master Xunhua, when he was young, he really wanted to become a Buddhist monk. But his mom said, well, get away from me until I pass away, you can go. So he wait. Yeah. Anyway, so that's good conversation today. Any question? Okay, so let's just finish today. Yeah. Go ahead, Thung Thiên. Can you say please, Thung Thiên?
Namasakamuna Buddha, Namasakamuna Buddha, Namasakamuna Buddha.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, William, can you stay back? I'd like to